I think one of the charming aspects about working with Catherine, I mean, she is only 10. It's, you know, child actors, they don't have any baggage, you know, they don't have all the layers of falseness that you can build as you spend years being an actor. They have such a purity, and they're not self-conscious in any way, so they bring something really fresh, and it's a pleasure to be around. The one thing about Boaz, he wanted to do a lot of the action in one take. So it's a very testing thing to be able to do because there's so many elements that can go wrong. And his tenacity to get it right was brilliant because, you know, some of the sequences that we did are quite lengthy.
Han Jiao is a very mysterious man. No one really knows who he is, although he commands a lot of attention because, let's just say, he's head of a triad in Hong Kong and various other places, of course, and he controls a lot of the money that moves around in the cities and so forth, you know, and he wants to get at the secrets that this little girl in the movie knows, played by Catherine. May, I called her in the movie. Han Jiao finds May because May has a photographic memory. She can memorize all numbers, images, anything you want to. One of those people who are gifted with that kind of memory. So instead of using computers and leaving trails for people to, you know, hack or whatever and find the information, I use May. May is a human computer, and she will obey every wish that I give her. When you want something from a child, you have to appease them, give them what they want, and psych them out, you know, and they psych you out too. And that's the battle between the young lady and myself. It's a battle of wits, you know, of emotions, and when you see the film, you'll see what becomes of this battle. With Reggie, Han Jiao tries to regulate him like a son, almost like a good son, but making him obey every order. Too strict a father in a way, you know, but making sure he does the right thing. So Reggie took that in stride, and we had that kind of communication. Working with the director Boaz is, to me, it was a very pleasant experience in the sense that he's not high-hatted, he's not conceited. He shares with you his thoughts, you know, which is very important to me.
May is this kind of like a computer brain. She can memorize anything she saw, especially like in math numbers. So that's why all the bad guys want her to use her as to keep the numbers, like codes and everything, so that way they don't have to use a computer. Because computers always, you can hack into them and get the number out. In a person, it's more harder. The movie Safe is a thriller containing all sorts of action. So basically, May, she's being chased by the Russians and the Chinese triads just for her the code number that she knows to the safe that holds something. And Jason, who she meets on the way, Jason helps her try to avoid them, and they help each other in ways they become really good friends in the end, and it's just really about their connections. My character and May and Jason's character met sort of by coincidence because she was walking through the running through the subway station to try to avoid bad guys, and he was just there and he saw her and kind of knew that she was in trouble. So then he decided to help, and then he went on from there, and they were in the end, they sort of became really good friends. Jason is really, really nice to work with because he makes you feel comfortable. He jokes around a lot. He gave me some advice during this, before scenes, to help me relax so I don't get nervous. And yeah, you know, he was really, really kind. The director, Boaz, he was really, really kind. He told me a lot of stories from his childhood. They were really funny. He always, before scenes, he would like give me some kind of advice, like don't be nervous, don't worry, you'll do fine, just relax. And at the end, he would always like give me like, good job, that was good. I liked acting in my first film because it was the first I've ever done something like this big. The people were really, really nice to me. They kept me comfortable. The scenes were really fun to make because Boaz is a great writer.
Safe came about when I was thinking of what to do as my next film to direct, and I started out in the film business writing a lot of action movies when I was very young, but I've never directed one, and I think one of the reasons I never directed one was because I never really found one with an emotional hook or a character that I felt connected to that would make directing it not feel like directing traffic, because action is very technical and it's very detail oriented, and some people really enjoy that, but for me, unless I'm connecting emotionally to something or to a character, I don't find myself very engaged. And with Safe, I managed to find a character and a situation that he was in that I ended up connecting with very strongly, so it sort of pulled me into the direction of directing it. Safe is about a little 10-year-old Chinese girl who's a math genius and has a photographic memory, and she's kidnapped from her home in China by the triads and brought to the States to do their accounts in her head. And in the meantime, you follow a parallel story of this guy that at the beginning of the film you just feel is a down-and-out mixed martial arts fighter who's run afoul of the Russian mafia, and they do this terrible thing to him, and he ends up being homeless and suicidal in the streets of New York. Emotionally, what it's really about is about a man who's given up on life and doesn't know why he should be living, who finds a reason to hold on to life and kind of comes back in a very frightening way to the person that he was before. When you're making an action film, obviously Jason brings a wealth of experience and ability to the physicality of the part. But what people also don't understand is that when you've done it the way, as much as Jason's done it, he understands how the camera works for him, he understands how everything works for him, but at the same time he's open and willing to try and find new things within that. Catherine had that mixture of feeling like she came from the old country, and also having a genuine pathos and a quality of stillness that made her believable and didn't make her feel like a kid actor to me, but like a real kid. And looking to cast the character of Han Zhao, who's sort of like the evil menace that's sort of looming over the entire film, it was just really important to find someone iconic and almost like the grandfather in some kind of a fable, in some kind of a Hans Christian Andersen or Grimm's Brothers story, because that's what he represented to the little girl. So you definitely needed to find an actor that could bring a kind of while being real and tied to the real world, a kind of a mythic quality. And James has been around forever, and he has that quality about him. You feel you've seen him somewhere before, and you have. And in this case, I thought that was terrific. And he's also just a very good actor, and I was glad to have him. Reggie, not as a backhanded compliment at all, was the most surprising and most exciting actor I worked with on the film. I mean, he is so good, and he came in, he auditioned, and he was good in the auditions, and we were glad to have him, but something happened when he stepped on set, and he was just so interesting that everyone would stop what they were doing and watch his scenes. And I think it was so important because his scenes with the little girl don't have a lot of time for development. At the same time, you really have to feel that even though he'd be willing to kill her at the drop of a hat, that he really does care about her and that he has very mixed emotions about the whole thing. And there's not a lot of time to show that. And I think that Reggie was able in every look, in every glance, in every body movement to convey both sides of his character. Yeah, he was just a pleasure to work with. Chris Sarandon, who plays the mayor, who's sort of a pivotal character in the film. You know, again, this film was very influenced by the films of the 70s and so on, and not to date Chris, but Chris really made an amazing impression in films like Dog Day Afternoon, and he's just been such a great actor in all kinds of films that sort of reflect the quality that I wanted this film to have, that for me to be able to get him in the movie allowed the movie to have that feeling and kind of cast that glow on the entire project. Well, the style that we went for in the film was definitely a style that was influenced by the action films of the late 60s and the early 70s. Since we were shooting in New York, we were really influenced by films like The Seven Ups, The French Connection, the original Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Films where the city was almost as much of a character as the people in the film. And, you know, the idea that I had and that I worked on with my collaborators, the cinematographer, the production designer, was to create a look that had some of that timeless kind of feel without trying to pretend we were making a film that was set back then. You know, without being too self-conscious about it, but eliminating certain things that would tie it in too strongly to the world today as well. So definitely it was influenced by films from that era. Having Mark Mothersbaugh do the film was kind of like a dream come true. The truth is, I am the biggest Devo fan ever. I mean, and I've been following them since they did their first appearance on Saturday Night Live in like 1978 or whatever it was, and I have every Devo album. And I would have never thought of Mark for this film because he's really noted for his charm and his like the stuff he's done for Wes Anderson. But someone suggested him for the movie, and Mark was very eager to do a film that took him outside of the kind of film he's been doing. And he did a demo for us for some of the scenes, and it was really exciting and terrific. And for me, the biggest hesitation was, you know, having to be a director with somebody that you've been a fan of for, 30 years, and have to say, Mark, can you change that cue for me? And it's someone that you've admired from afar for so long. So it was exciting and a little nerve-wracking at the same time. Obviously, on an action film like this, I hope they get a sense of visceral excitement and a sense of emotional satisfaction in kind of going through this journey with Jason and the little girl and finding a sense of connection and revitalization as they do.
Project came about when Boaz Yakin, who's been a friend of mine for probably 20 years now, we made this movie called Fresh and a movie called Price Above Rubies, called me and said, I have a project I wrote and love for you to produce it. And last time we made a movie together was 1994, so that was kind of a fun phone call to get from him. And he sent me the script, and I loved it. Jason and I met a few years ago through a mutual friend, Vivi Nevo. We actually met on a boat, and we became friends over the years. And when Boaz gave me the script, I said to myself, this is perfect for Jason. And Boaz, of course, agreed. And so I called Jason's agent. I called Jason and said, guys, you should read this. It'd be a perfect project for you. It's right in your wheelhouse. It's got that great action, but it's also a really fantastic character for Jason. And so I sent it to them. And he read it pretty quickly and called me up and said, I'd love to do it. And kind of took off right away. Luke Wright is obviously in this movie down in his luck. He's been torn apart by the people around him. He's in bad shape until he meets this little girl. And he has this little connection with this little girl and feels that, okay, he has to do something. He's got to save her. And in a sense, by saving this little girl, he saves himself. And he, so there's this wonderful ability for him to connect with this child in this movie. At the same time, he kicks ass. He jumps out of windows and beats people to death with his bare hands, and is great, jumping across things. And he's an action hero. He's like perfect action hero. Our other lead in the movie, Catherine, was a big process finding her. We auditioned girls literally all over the world. We auditioned girls in Shanghai, Beijing, in Canada, in New York, here in Los Angeles, up north in Vancouver. we had a massive, massive search trying to find the perfect Chinese girl to play this role of a 12-year-old girl, and ultimately came up with our lead. She was a wonderful mixture of intelligence, sympathy, empathy, a wonderful warm heart, and you feel for her in the movie, and she's wonderful. James Hahn, who has been around forever, brings such a weight and a history to his character, and so we called him and said, "Would you play this part?" We had no idea if he would take the part or not, and he accepted the role. We were very happy. He's an iconic figure in the movie. You know, this is not your standard kind of action movie in the sense that it does have these fantastic characters and has a wonderful emotional core. And I think when Boaz was writing this movie, he was looking to do something different, something that has an emotional through line, which is about this guy Luke Wright, who ultimately he was torn apart, and through his relationship with this little girl, is able to find peace within himself at the end of the movie. And of course, through that, you have this big action movie with all these things going on. But the thing that makes this movie special and different, and not just a regular, straight-ahead action movie, is the fact that you have this great relationship between this little girl and this phenomenal guy, Luke Wright, Jason Statham, and the journey that these two go on together. Well, I hope audiences, first of all, are completely entertained. This is an entertaining, action-packed genre movie that I think takes you on a big thrill ride. What's great about this movie, though, is I think women will love this movie as well, because it's ultimately about a relationship between a guy and a little girl, and the warmth and love that come between them that propels these two people through the movie. And so I think ultimately you'll have a thrilling action kind of fun ride, but at the end of the day you'll have an emotional ride, one that'd be very fulfilling.
Action! Action! And keep coming. And action!
Y tus trailers, visita mi canal.
Hey guys, first camera's in.
Jason!
Pass over there. So keep this clear for her. So on action, it's just you guys coming through, going over, and as you pass there, she's coming around. And cut. Very nice. Cut.
they bring one of the monitors here so we could look at it like talking?
Jesús Trailers.
Thank you.
One and nine, line, take two.
Be nice.